For any parent, it's just heartbreaking watching your child struggle with something that seems to come so easily to other kids. And for the child, well, you can imagine the frustration when the words on a page just won't make sense. Today, we're going to dive into that struggle. But here's the thing. We're not going to see it as a failing. We're going to see it as a different way of learning. And let's start with a question that might feel very familiar to you.
Yeah, does that hit close to home? Maybe you're here right now because that's exactly the question on your mind. You've got this bright, funny, curious kid who is into everything, but when you put a book in front of them, it's like a wall goes up. It's confusing and it's really common, but understanding what's going on, well, that's the first step.
Okay, this right here, this is the single most important thing to get right from the start. We have to completely separate the idea of reading ability from the idea of intelligence. They are not the same thing, not even close. Dyslexia is about how the brain is wired. It has absolutely nothing to do with a child's potential.
What's so tough is that so many of these bright kids slip through the cracks for years. Why? Because the assumption is they just need to try harder. And that little phrase, try harder, it just creates so much frustration at school, at home, and most of all, inside the child themselves.
All right, so let's cut through all of that confusion. Let's get really clear on this. What is dyslexia really? Because once you have a clear definition, you can start to move from just worrying to actually making a plan.
So here's the clinical definition. It's a specific learning disorder. The words that really matter here are accuracy, fluency, and decode. And that word decode, it's just a fancy term for matching letters to their sounds to read a word. C-A-T makes the sound cat. For a person with dyslexia, that fundamental connection is a huge challenge.
I love this slide because it just busts all the biggest myths at once. Let's get this straight. It is not a vision problem. That whole idea of seeing words backward is mostly a myth. It is definitely not laziness, and it has zero to do with low intelligence. What it is a brain-based difference in how language gets processed. And yeah, it often runs in families. We have to shift our thinking from a problem with the eyes to a difference in the brain. And it's also important to know that dyslexia often doesn't travel alone. It's pretty common to also see challenges like ADHD or anxiety. And a lot of that anxiety comes directly from the stress a kid feels at school. Recognizing this just helps you see the whole picture.
Okay, so we've got the definition, but what does this actually look like in your house on a Tuesday night when there's homework to do? Let's get practical and talk about the signs you can watch for at home.
Take a look at this list. Do any of these ring a bell? The kid who will do anything to get out of reading out loud. The reading that's just so slow and full of effort. How about spelling the same simple word 3 different ways in the same paragraph? And maybe this last one is what really gets you. Your child is a fantastic storyteller with a huge vocabulary, but their written work just doesn't reflect that at all. These are all classic clues. And this is so important. Please hear this. You do not need to wait for a teacher to raise a red flag. You don't need to wait for the school to suggest a screening. If your gut is telling you something's off, that is enough. Trust your instinct. So what happens when you act on that concern? The next step is usually an evaluation. And I know that word can sound intimidating, but this isn't a scary test your child can pass or fail. It's simply a process for finding clear answers so you can create a helpful plan. Experts are going to look at the whole child. They'll review their developmental history, use specific tests to look at skills like phonics and reading fluency, and assess other cognitive skills. The whole point is to get a full understanding so that at the end you have a clear roadmap for support. And let's be really honest about the purpose here. A label by itself is useless. The real goal, the true prize, is to end that cycle of frustration. It's to give your child the right tools and watch their confidence come flooding back. That's what this is all about. Now, for the best part, the solutions. What does support actually look like? Let's talk about the toolkit, the actual strategies that can help a child with dyslexia not just cope, but truly start to thrive.
This is a big one for parents. You might hear people say, oh, just wait and see, he'll grow out of it. So, should you wait?
The answer from the experts is a clear and resounding no. A young child's brain is incredibly receptive to learning language. Getting help early, I'm talking as early as age 5 or 6, can make a monumental difference. Do not wait. Okay, another common question. Once the child is diagnosed, is this just a phase? Is it something they'll eventually outgrow?
Well, it is a lifelong condition. The brain's fundamental wiring for processing language doesn't just change. But, and this is a huge but, with the right tools and strategies, a person with dyslexia can absolutely become a very successful reader and a very successful learner.
So if it's all about learning new strategies, does that mean that specialized tutoring or therapy actually makes a real difference? Does it work?
Yes, absolutely yes. And this isn't guesswork. We know that specialized, structured approaches like multisensory programs that use touch and movement to teach reading are highly effective. Technology is a game changer too, like with audiobooks. They can unlock a love of stories while those reading skills catch up. There is real, evidence-based hope here.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Try harder is a dead end. It just places all the blame on the child. What they actually need, what they deserve, are the right tools, the right kind of instruction, and the right understanding from the adults around them.
So we end up right back where we started, with a bright, curious child. Understanding their struggle is the first step, but the real journey is finding the tools that don't just help them read, but that unlock the full power of their unique and amazing mind. The question isn't just how to help them read a book, it's how to help them write their own incredible story.